Welcome back to another video, and today we got our Week 2 NFL game predictions. We did this last week. How this goes, we pick every game this week. We'll briefly recap last week as we explain our picks for every single game. Real quick before we get started though, make sure you go down there, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on the noties to make sure you don't miss whenever we upload, and like this video if you enjoy. We do not only do we do NFL, we do college football every week, MLB every week. When basketball season starts up, we're doing NBA and college basketball videos every single week. So it's a great time to be a part of the channel. Make sure you go down there, subscribe, and like this video if you enjoy. Real quick, links in the description. As always, Twitch, TikTok, X, Discord. Make sure you follow those, join all those. Content will be coming soon on some of those. We already have a lot of content on X, so make sure you follow that, obviously, and join the Discord if that sounds interesting to you. But with all that being said, let's take a look at the standings based off of last week's performances. So obviously, I'm in second right now. I've won the league, or I guess not the league, but I've won this picks thing 3 years in a row. I'm looking to win 4 in a row. I've won all 3 years we've done it, but we got a new kid. He's in first place. Gavin, 14-2 on the week. Great week for him. Got a pair of guys going 12-4. Ben went 11-5, and then I don't know what happened with Sammy at 5-11. That's not what you want to see, especially with week 1. Hopefully he can bounce back this week here with his picks. But moving on into the Thursday night game, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills traveling to Miami to take them on. And just looking, at bare, face level, Dolphins are favored by 2.5. They're at home. It's a primetime game. I do believe they should win. But when you really dig deeper, I mean, both these teams didn't look too great. Honestly, I'd argue the Bills look better. Both were in close games against subpar opponents. The Bills took down the Cardinals by 4, and the Dolphins beat the Jaguars on a game-winning field goal by 3. Honestly, both these teams didn't look too impressive. It is week 1. The Bills, they looked pretty solid. I was worried to see how their receivers would do, but they actually looked decent out there. The Dolphins receivers looked really good. The running backs looked really good. The whole offense really just performed well, even with it being a subpar game as a team. But Raheem Mostert will be out this game for the Dolphins. Devon Achane, I believe, is questionable, so he could be out. That could be a huge factor. As of right now, I think Devon Achane is playing, so I am going to take him. But if there's news that he does end up, being out for this game, then I could definitely see myself switching to the Bills. This is still a very close game, even if he does play an AFC East matchup here on Thursday night. Definitely could be interesting. But as of right now, I'm going to take the Dolphins. Oh, by the way, the two guys in the middle didn't send me their picks in time, so they're just going to be sitting in the middle here for all these picks. They'll probably send me them in tomorrow morning because I record these Wednesday nights. So they'll just be sitting in the middle for this video. But looking at our first Sunday game, it's going to be the Raiders taking on the Ravens. And we saw the Ravens looked very good against the Chiefs in Arrowhead in the season opener. Isaiah Likely had a great game. Derrick Henry scored a touchdown. Lamar looked as good as he ever does. I mean, he's rushed for over 120 yards. The Ravens looked really good. The defense looked really good. The Raiders lose to a Chargers team who nobody really expects to be that great this season. Gardner Minshew looked about as bad as everyone thought he was. The Raiders didn't look good. The Ravens, both these teams did lose, but the Ravens looked a lot better in doing so. They also played against a much better team on the road. I do think the Ravens win this one. They're favored by 9. I don't think they have any problems here. I think they get the job done and win. Looking at our next game, Cleveland taking on the Jaguars. This one is interesting because both these teams, similar to the last matchup, they did both lose week 1. The Browns were actually favored against the Cowboys. They go out there and lose by, I believe, 16 or 17 points. The Jaguars played a pretty close game with the Dolphins. They did end up coming short, though, losing by 3. And, yeah, it's interesting because the Jaguars are actually favored in this game by 3, which kind of surprises me a little bit. The Browns' defense is still one of the best in the league. The Jaguars often, I mean, the Jaguars really as a team only scored 17 points. The Browns scored the same amount, even with a Deshaun Watson who looked absolutely horrible last week. He did not play a great game. They're still without Nick Chubb. They're going to be without David Njoku this game, which could be interesting. They were without him last week. I just believe their defense causes Trevor Lawrence a little bit too much problems here, and I think just as a whole, I think they're a better team. I think they're better coached. I think the Browns ultimately finish this season with a better record than the Jaguars, and I do believe that they are the better team here. So I'm going to take them. The Jags do get it at home, which could be interesting. But like I said, I mean, I think the Browns are just better overall. Yes, they're without Njoku. Yes, they're without Chubb still. I still think they're better. I think defensively they get some pressure on Trevor Lawrence. They maybe force some turnovers. I could definitely see that happening. So I'm going to take the Browns here. Looking at our next game, we got the Jets going to Tennessee to take on the Titans, and talk about a collapse. The Titans up 17-0 against the Bears, end up losing 24-17. Will Levis looked honestly decent in the first half. In the second half, they just collapsed. They fell apart. They couldn't do anything. Turned the ball over. Special teams errors. Um, Offensively, they just turned the ball over. I think he threw 2 picks and a fumble. I mean, just not a great day there. The Bears defense pretty much scored all their points, and they end up winning. When looking at the Jets, we saw them kind of get dominated by the Niners on Monday Night Football. I'm not too worried about them. I think they'll be okay, but it is a little concerning the Niners are able to put up 33 points, I believe it was, without their best player. So that is a little bit concerning, but I think it was just the fact it's week one. I think the Jets will be okay. I think they respond with a win over the Titans here. They're favored by 3.5. I think they get it done. And looking at our next game, speaking of the Niners, they're going to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. And Sam Darnold actually looked pretty solid last week against the Giants. Granted, it was against the Giants, but they went 28-6. And yeah, Aaron Jones had a great game. Justin Jefferson looked solid. The Vikings actually looked decent. Again, it was against the Giants. The 49ers blew out a team who I believe will make the playoffs this year in the New York Jets without their best player. He might not play for this game. Honestly, I don't think it really matters if he plays. I think they'll win this game. I've said this in my preseason NFL preview. I previewed every division and the playoffs. I think the Niners are the best team in the league. I predicted them to win the Super Bowl. I think they'll beat the Vikings here, no problems. They're favored by 6. I think they get it done. Moving on to our next game. Uh, this is an interesting game. The Chargers start off the season with a win over the Raiders. The Panthers start off the season by losing by almost 40 to the Saints. Bryce Young looked very, very worrisome. I'm definitely worried how he plays the rest of the season and what his future looks like in the league. But the Chargers, obviously the huge story. They lose Eckler, they lose Keenan Allen, they lose Mike Williams, they lose Gerald Everett. I mean, the defense still kept a lot of their guys, but I mean they did keep Herbert still, which is a good thing because he's obviously a very good quarterback. But the weapons around him are just really lackluster. But you had J.K. Dobbins step up. He played a great game. Joshua Palmer, Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey did have the touchdown, so it's a below average receiving room, but they didn't look bad against the Raiders. I do believe the Panthers are honestly worse than the Raiders, so I think they'll win this game. But I'm actually interested to see if the Chargers could be a sleeper team this year. I think I had them winning 7 games. They could potentially win 8 or 9. I don't know. Well, I want to see them play against a good team before I really get, say stuff like that. I do think they'll beat the Panthers though. They're favored by 6 on the road. I think they'll get the job done against Carolina. Looking at our next matchup, Seattle's going to New England to take on the Patriots, who actually won last week. I was calling them the worst team in the league this entire offseason, and I honestly still do believe that when looking at the roster. But they beat the Bengals last week, and really in dominating fashion. The Bengals just couldn't get anything going on offense. The Patriots really they beat them 16-10. It was boring game. But yeah, they got it done, so props to them, I guess. But against the Seahawks, I think the Seahawks are not necessarily better than the Bengals offensively. Honestly, I think you could argue the Bengals are better offensively, but I think the Bengals, we've seen them start slow. They're one of those teams that starts off the season slow. I think the Seahawks go into New England, give them a little bit of a reality check. I don't think the Patriots are good enough to beat the Bengals on a week to week basis. I think that was a little bit of a fluke game just because it was week one. I think the Seahawks get the job done against the Patriots. I don't see a world where the Patriots start off the year 2-0. I had them winning 3 games all year in my preseason preview. So I do think the Seahawks get this one against the Patriots. We will have to see if Kenneth Walker plays, but even if he doesn't, I think they'll still win. The Saints put on a show. It actually looked pretty good in doing so. They beat the Panthers 47-10. Again, it was against the Panthers, so how excited can you really get? I think with the Cowboys, you can get pretty excited. They go into Cleveland and win by 16, I believe. They won 33-17. They looked pretty good. Cleveland was favored in that game, and they really just dominated them offensively, defensively on both sides of the ball. I think that you can get pretty excited for the Cowboys. Like I said, they looked pretty good in that game against Cleveland. I do think they'll beat the Saints. Both these teams, two of the more impressive teams out of week one. I do think the Cowboys get it done, though, at home. They're favored by 6.5. I definitely do think they win here. Defense looks elite. I mean, top 3, maybe best in the league, dare I say elite. Now, I don't want to overreact. It's week 1, but definitely a top 5 defense at the least here for Dallas. But moving on to our next game, we got an NFC East matchup here. Daniel Jones and the Giants taking on Jayden Daniels and the Commanders. And from what we've seen from Jayden Daniels so far, he actually looks like a pretty good quarterback. He had 2 rushing touchdowns last week against the Buccaneers, where they lose 37-20. I'm a little bit disappointed by how the defense played. I was kind of, saying how the Commanders, one of the more underrated defenses and one of the more underrated teams in the NFL. I didn't have them having a crazy season. I think I had them going 6-11, but they bring in Austin Eckler. They still got Terry McLaurin. They also bring in Bobby Wagner on the defense. Bring in Jayden Daniels, obviously. It's an improved team, and I actually wasn't too upset with how they played against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are a pretty good team, definitely playoff caliber. Will they make the playoffs? I don't think so, but they could definitely get. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But yeah, from what we saw from Jayden Daniels, he looked much better than Caleb Williams did. I'll say that he looked better than Drake May didn't play. He looked better than Bo Nix. So of the 3 QBs out of this draft class that played, he definitely looked like the best one by far. I do think the Commanders win. The Giants just looked abysmal last week against the Vikings. The Vikings aren't a team that I think will be very good. I think I'm doing 5 or 6 games in my preseason, and they just got dominated on in every aspect of the game against the Vikings there. So the Giants don't look good at all. I think the Commanders are the better team here. They get it at home. They're favored by 1.5. I'll take the Commanders here. Moving on to our next game, though. The Buccaneers go into Detroit to take on the Lions. Now, the Lions looked really good Sunday night against the Rams. There was a portion where they were controlling the game for a lot of the first half. Coming out of the first half, though, third quarter to beginning to mid fourth quarter, they were actually struggling a little bit. Now, they did end up coming out on top and winning in overtime. It was a great Sunday night game to kick off the season. And they also beat the Rams, who I believe are a playoff team. The Bucs, though, looked really good against the Commanders. So both these teams looked very good offensively. This could definitely be a shootout game. I believe this is the highest over-under of the week, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, I would honestly agree. I think it should be. Yeah, it is. It's 51.5. It's a whole lot of points. The Lions, even with the high over-under, are favored by 7.5. Which leads me to believe that the Lions will win this game. They also get it at home. Both these teams looked really good. So this will definitely be a game to keep your eyes out on. If you have any of these guys in fantasy, definitely start them this week. I believe there'll be a lot of points coming from both of these teams, but I do think the Lions come out on top with the win. Looking at our next game, the Colts fall short to the Texans last week. They looked really good, though. Anthony Richardson had a great game. Jonathan Taylor as well. When looking at the Packers, obviously the story here is they come up just short against the Eagles. Both these teams played a very good game, ended up losing to teams, to good teams, the Texans and the Eagles. But with the Packers, Jordan Love's going to be out for at least 4 weeks, I believe they said. So the backup quarterback is Malik Willis. That doesn't sound very appealing to me. And it's not like they have receivers that are otherworldly. I mean, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs. None of those guys are crazy good to really, elevate Malik Willis, I guess you could say. They do have Josh Jacobs, so maybe they give him a bunch of carries this week here against the Colts. It is in Lambeau, so this could definitely go either way. The Colts are favored by 3, though. The fact that it's a Packers home game and the Colts are favored, the Packers are definitely better than the Colts with Jordan Love. But without him, I do think the Colts get this one done. I just can't see Malik Willis really doing much here for this Packers team. Moving on to our first afternoon game of the video. The Rams are going to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Surprise, surprise, the Cardinals are favored by 1. Was not expecting this at all. Honestly, I'm not sure why. Maybe the Puka Nacua injury, I guess. But even without Puka Nacua, I'm going to go with the Rams. This was the only one that's split this week. I guess for good reason. Vegas is saying this game's a pick'em. I really don't think so. I think the Rams are much better than the Cardinals. We saw Marvin Harrison do absolutely nothing last week. Kyler Murray looked really good, but Trey McBride really didn't do anything either. It was a lot of Kyler Murray rushing, James Conner rushing. So maybe you can expect the same of that, but I honestly do believe the passing volume will have to go up, just with the fact that I think the Rams will be winning for the majority of this game. So I think they will have some catching up to do. It is in Arizona. Maybe that's why they're favored. But I do believe the Rams are the better team here. I think they win. Yeah, I'm surprised that the Cardinals are actually favored in this game here. They did look good against the Bills, I guess. Looking at our next game here, Russell Wilson, I believe, is going to be out for the Steelers again. So it's going to be Justin Fields once again. Justin Fields taking on Bo Nix. The Steelers did beat the Falcons last week, which was surprising to me, especially with Justin Fields in there. Bo Nix and the Broncos against Seattle didn't look horrible, but obviously nothing crazy. I mean, they lost. What was the score? I think it was like 26-20. 26-20, that sounds about right. So they did score a late touchdown, however, so it's a little inflated. But ultimately, I think the Steelers are the better team overall, just top to bottom. I think defensively, they're going to give Bo Nix some problems here. The Seahawks, Bo Nix actually looked decent against the Seahawks. I think the Steelers defense gets to him a little bit, maybe forces some turnovers. I think he'll definitely have some more troubles beating the Steelers here than he did against the Seahawks. And I do think Fields is, as of right now, a better quarterback than Bo Nix is. They beat the Falcons last week, I believe. Was it 18-10? They kicked 6 field goals or something like that. Yeah, 18-10. I do think the Steelers, though, defensively, they give Bo Nix some problems, maybe force some turnovers. I think they get the win there. Looking at our next game, Bengals. The Bengals go into Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs, coming off a huge win Thursday night against the Ravens, came down to the final play. The Bengals, coming off a disappointing loss, to say the least, against the New England Patriots. You got two different stories here. I actually picked the Bengals to win this game in my preseason prediction. I remember because the Bengals just always give the Chiefs problems. But it's looking like T. Higgins is questionable again for this game, so we'll see if he does end up playing. With or without T. Higgins, I think my pick remains the same. I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs. They're at home here. They looked really good against the Ravens. I do think the Ravens are a little bit better than the Bengals. it's hard for me to get on board with the Bengals just because of the fact they just lost to who I've been calling the worst team in the league, in the Patriots. So it's hard for me to really get on board with the Bengals as of right now. I do think they'll still finish as a playoff team, but like I said, they do tend to start slow. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs here in this game. But looking at our Sunday night game, we got the Bears taking on the Texans. The one positive thing I can say about the Bears is they have a really good defense. I mean, they forced a whole lot of turnovers. Like I said, they had 2 interceptions, one for a pick six, one to seal the game. They also had a fumble recovery that led to a field goal, and they had a blocked punt return to a touchdown. So the defense was responsible for pretty much 17 of their 24 points. Well, technically, I guess 18 of their, 18 of their 24 points. The offense really did not look good. I will give him a break, though. Caleb Williams in his first game. Rome Odunze is going to be out for this game, which is a little bit worrisome here. I think the defense for the Bears will be able to keep them in the game for a little bit, but ultimately it's in Houston. C.J. Stroud, I believe, is a much better quarterback than Caleb Williams is as of right now. I think as a whole, the Texans' offense is very solid, and I don't really think their defense needs to be a lead or anything to slow down the Bears. I think Caleb Williams will gradually get better as the year goes on, but as of right now, he doesn't scare me. I think the Texans do end up winning here Sunday night against the Bears. Like I said, I think the defense can keep them in the game for a little bit, but they're favored by 6 at home, prime time. I think they get it done. I think their offense is a little bit too much for the Bears' offense to keep up with. And then to wrap it all up, the Monday night game here, the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Eagles. Now, the Eagles beat the Packers last week in a great game Friday night in Brazil. We're not going to talk about the turf because that was just, it wasn't great. With that being said, however, the Falcons did not look good at all in their first game with Kirk Cousins at the quarterback. He just looked terrible. It was against the Steelers defense, who are one of the best in the league. But you got to put up more than 10 points if you're going to want to win. I do think the Eagles are the better team overall here. They get it at home. They're favored by 6.5. Monday Night Football, I think the Eagles and Jalen Hurts get the win over the Falcons. But with all that being said, that's going to do it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed the Week 2 NFL game predictions. If you did, make sure you go on there, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Comment down below what you agree, disagree. Let me know. I'd love to debate. And turn on the noties to make sure you don't miss whenever we post. Like I said, college football every week, MLB every week. When NBA and college basketball start to pick up, we'll be giving those every week. So definitely an exciting time to be on the channel. Make sure you subscribe if you're new, and links in the description as always. X, Twitch, TikTok, Discord. Follow those, join all those. With all that being said, though, hope you guys enjoyed this one. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.